Testament, you will find a sprinkling of Zechariah throughout it. It's also the longest book in the minor prophets. And Zechariah, contrary to some of the other books, has a positive, powerful book of hope and encouragement that focused on the restoration of Israel, the power of God, and the promise of a future messianic kingdom. And if we want to understand this message well, we need to understand what he was speaking into. What was he addressing? Now remember, Zechariah and Haggai, remember we spoke about Haggai previously. Haggai and Zechariah were contemporaries. They had both come back to Israel about the same time after the exile. Zechariah was a grandson of a priest named Iddo. He prophesied to the people of Judah after they returned from their 70 years of exile in Babylon. Zechariah's grandfather returned from Babylon, his youngest grandson in tow, with the first group of Israelites that were allowed back under the decree of Cyrus, the king of Persia, in 538 BC. And because of his family lineage, Zechariah was a priest, but also a prophet. And so he would have been intimately familiar with what priests do, even if he had not been in practice before. And even if he'd never seen the completed temple, he knew what went on in the temple. And as a young man at the time of his first prophecies, his life more than likely extended into the reign of Xerxes from Persia. He was the king kind of known under, remember the book of Esther, that king of Persia. And Zechariah, a young man compared to his contemporary Haggai, who was an older prophet, came alongside of Haggai and delivered a message from the Lord to the Jewish remnant recently returned. Now, if you remember, Haggai's message was much more cautionary in tone, pointing out the Jews' sins and self-focus. And Zechariah comes along with a voice of encouragement to these struggling Israelites that were trying to rebuild the temple. And so Zechariah begins with a call for the people of Judah to repent, like Haggai did, but he quickly turns to 8 visions that he receives on a very restless night in February 519 BC. And then that's followed by 4 other messages that he preaches a few months later. And through his final messages in chapters 9 to 14, he doesn't give the dates for those messages, but it does mention in chapter 9:13 the mention of Greece, and which suggests that it might have been later on in his life, the last few chapters. So where's the hope for us? Yes, he's talking to Israel. They come back to rebuild the temple, but what's that got to do with us? See, here's the thing. We all have seasons in our life, like the Israelites, where our resources run completely dry. The road ahead sometimes seems pretty impossible. We come from different countries, we come from different places, or we just, in our lives, we have been used to having a certain amount, and then all of a sudden we get to some challenges in our life and we don't know what to do. And often, discouragement sets in. And discouragement can be